Hello, everybody. I am Maya Price, co-founder of Gamelearn, and I'd like to welcome you to our annual event 2020. I'd like to introduce you to our US country manager, Priscilla Villaseñor, and she will give us a little bit of context of the challenges we are facing right now on the learning and development arena. And sorry, but this time I really have to go very quickly because I've been preparing a little surprise that I want to perform for all of you very soon at the end of the event. By the way, I very well know that the American audience really appreciates the art of flamenco. Please bear with us and welcome to Priscilla, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for that introduction and welcome. The current pandemic has affected all aspects of life, from economic struggles to social and political impacts. Lockdowns and physical distancing have resulted in the closures of schools, businesses, and other institutions, forcing the majority of us to work from home. To maintain an active and productive workforce, corporate training is now being delivered online, circumventing the need for face-to-face interaction. But we all know that going digital doesn't mean streaming your content via Zoom. But is there an ideal way to deliver our content online? Until now, corporations have relied on archaic technology, plain text, videos, and PowerPoint. All these outdated technologies have been with us for about 30 years, and in the case of writing, about 2,500 years. We think it's time to disrupt how content is delivered. But first, let's see why. When corporations use an old-fashioned approach to online learning, the results are clear. Zero experiential learning, low engagement and completion rates, and an NPS of about -20. Additionally, you get low knowledge retention and limited feedback, which results in an overall unproductive learning experience. At Gamelearn, we believe that in order to tackle these challenges, online training programs must meet the following criteria. First, attract. The courses must be differentiated enough for a population currently bombarded with information. We demand effective, efficient, and fun content that is truly applicable. Second, engagement. Once students start training, we need to make sure they remain engaged throughout the course. We all know that audiences have a limited attention span, so interaction is key to make sure they stick around until the end. Quality content. We must make sure the course delivers quality content that is relevant to the student in order to teach. Content that is not only applicable to the job, but to our daily lives. So how do we do this? The answer is very simple. Through video games. We ensure experiential learning through realistic simulators that get people excited to learn. These simulations allow students to learn through a practical approach that keeps them focused and engaged. By tapping into the power of storytelling, we can attract and engage learners while applying the fundamentals of gamification: points, rankings, levels, and challenges to keep them motivated and on a continuous learning path. Gamification, however, is just one piece of the puzzle, and we should apply these core tenets of gaming to our courses. But we all know boring courses can use gamification too. So why are we different? The answer is game-based learning. Game-based learning provides real-time practice and instant feedback to ensure students are understanding and retaining the material. This sums up our methodology. We use simulators, storytelling, and gamification, all rolled into one. That is our secret sauce. And the results are staggering. With the e-learning methods of the past, there was no way to guarantee experiential learning, but at Gamelearn, we are doing just that. Where the completion rate before was around 25%, our video games is over 90%. Where before the average NPS was -20, with Gamelearn, it's an impressive +50. Additionally, more than 90% of our students say that what they learn on the job was applicable to their daily lives as well. And more than 98% of them recommended the course to others. Also, when using the Kirkpatrick method for evaluating training courses, which is compares a student's self-assessment before and after the course, we can clearly see an improvement across the board. And in some cases, the skill level has more than doubled. For those of you who don't know Gamelearn, we are pioneers. We made the first corporate training video game 15 years ago. and we haven't looked back since. We have more than 3,000 clients, as you can see here on the board, and we've trained more than 300,000 students around the world in 160 countries, I'm sorry. This is why we are the most award-winning game-based learning company in the world. As you can see behind me, some of the awards we've gotten so far. At Gamelearn, we believe we are in this together. And as the corporate training sector steps up to maintain a healthy and productive workforce during this pandemic, we believe that through the use of technology and game-based learning, we can empower this and future generations with the tools and insights to maximize the learning experience in the most effective way possible. Welcome to the future. I'd like to pass it off to the creator of this groundbreaking tool we are unveiling today, and the person behind the creation and development of our wonderful serious games, alongside fellow co-founder Edward Montfort. He's been named e-learning champion twice by the e-learning media group, and he's got countless game-based learning awards to his name. Without further ado, the man behind our authoring tool, Ibrahim Jibari.
Let me talk about our platform. Our platform is composed of three different components. The first one would be the campus. The campus is the place where all of our games are available for your students or your employees. In the catalog today, you can find all the games built by Gamelearn during the past years. So we'll find games like merchants, negotiation, or time management. We have our game on leadership and team management. We have our customer service game, Ada, that will allow you to teach and communicate almost anything because it's customizable. Mars is a multiplayer social game where the community is actually generating the contents. We have Crypto for cybersecurity, the anti-money laundering game, the coaching one. We have creative thinking, effective feedback, influence and persuasion, emotion management, conflict management, and many, many more. The idea here is that we are constantly launching new games. For the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be adding another 6 additional games to the catalog. So all of these games in the catalog will be available for your students to play. This would be the campus. Now, this is how it looks like today when the players or the students enter the campus. You can personalize this. You can decide which games they can play or who can play which games. The second element in the platform is the LMS. The LMS will allow you basically to do all the administration of your training. So you'll be monitoring and controlling what is going on, who's playing which games, how long they are playing them, what they are learning, and you can also have access to different metrics and to different dashboards to analyze the ROI of your training investment. And we were lacking a third element, a very crucial one. This third element has to do with a big problem we were facing ourselves, because you as clients were demanding a lot of new games, and you were asking for your needs to be solved, but we didn't have the time nor the resources to actually build those games quickly enough to satisfy those needs. Building a game is really difficult and it's really expensive. Although we knew that you needed them, we couldn't actually provide. So now we are facing a completely new situation. Now the clients are not only asking for us to develop games for them, but they want to develop their own games. And also, sometimes they ask for our games to be customized, and sometimes they directly ask for a completely specific new game for the needs. This is currently impossible to do because building a game is a huge investment. So our games took around 1 to 2 million investment, and also it took between 1 and 2 years development, And for doing so, we needed to use a huge team, a very diverse team with technical backgrounds. We needed artists, we needed programmers, we needed game designers, and so on. Very difficult, very expensive, very long to build a new game. And this is exactly what we are doing today. We are trying to solve this problem. We are trying to offer you a tool to be able to change this situation. We did revolutionize the sector 15 years ago when we launched the first corporate training video game, and we feel that we are revolutionizing this sector today again because we are launching the editor. And the editor is basically an authoring tool to help you build training video games with almost no cost, in a matter of hours, and without writing a single line of code. Let's see how the editor works. So the editor will allow us to build any kind of game, and it's going to be built in levels. So we can add 1 level, 2 levels, as many levels as we want. Within each level, we can add scenes. What we call scenes is basically the area where things will happen. So they'll have a background, and then we'll be adding what we call elements. Elements can be objects, could be characters, or clickable areas, and we'll see now how that works. So we'll start from 0 here. We are going to be adding a first scene to our first level. What we do is basically open the library. Within the library, we can find over 150 different scenarios. We're going to choose one scenario here. It's going to be the dining room, for example. And we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it dining room. Now we have a first scene in our first level. If we want things to happen in that scene, we need to add elements to this scene. So we're going to click Add, and we're going to see a menu where we can choose different things to be added. We can add characters, we could add objects, we could add images. In this case, we'll add a character as an example. So again, the library will open, and we'll find a whole bunch of different options. So it's a very diverse catalog of characters. Once we choose a character, now we have to position that character in the scene. We're going to leave Gina, because we're going to call her Gina in this case, in that place in the scene. So how the editor works is as follows. Whenever a player enters the game, if he or she clicks on Gina's character, something will happen. In this case, there's nothing to happen right now, but we'll add a new block. And the blocks are basically the instructions, so the editor understands what you want to happen when the player is interacting with the character. In this case, we're going to add a dialogue. So dialogue would be one kind of a building block. Remember, the editor works basically as a Lego system, so you'll be connecting different blocks. In this case, we're going to call this building block, the dialogue, we'll call it intro dialogue, for example. In this case, we're going to hit this button right here, which is called add a sentence, because we're going to build a dialogue adding different sentences. When you do so, you find 5 different potential actors. We're going to choose which actors are going to intervene in this dialogue. In this case, it's going to be a monologue. Only one person will be speaking. In this case, Gina is speaking, and she's going to say something like the following. Gina has been investigating, and now she finds herself just about finding the secret. We're going to say, the last clue said that the secret could be found behind the sky. So this is a very weird sentence. It's just giving me a clue. So the player will think, I'm going to add MCD. And this is for the game purposes. MCD is a Roman's number. And the player needs to think how to solve the following minigame using this clue. But we'll see how that works later on. So now, this is going to be one sentence. Right now, you only need to understand that we created a scene. Inside the scene, we placed a character. Whenever someone clicks on the character, we will launch this dialogue, this intro dialogue. And then we're going to add now what we call a clickable area. So this is basically a way to set an interactive zone in the scene. So instead of placing an object or a character, we're basically placing an interactive area. So we're going to add an element. We're going to choose the element we want to add. We're going to choose clickable area. And now we're going to place the clickable area on top of the picture that we see there. So it looks like some kind of a sky. So we're going to put kind of an interactive area on top of that. Whenever someone clicks on this picture, something will happen. So now we used this tool to place the clickable area. We're going to call it CA, clickable area. And we're going to set what is going to happen when someone clicks there. So we'll add a new building block. In this case, we're going to use a comic. A comic is a great way to introduce image and interaction into our story, and in a very efficient way. It's not too expensive. So we could build a comic using different images and combining those images with text. How do we configure the comic building block? So let's build an example, and this is going to be called comic, for example, in our case. And we add panels. So the first one will be a combination between an image and a text. So we're going to add an image of Gina moving towards the picture, and we're going to write here the following text. It has to be there, for example. Now we're going to add another panel, and this is how easy it is to build the comic. We're going to choose another image. In this case, we'll show the secret hiding place opened already, and we're going to say, there we go, or how, or whatever we want to hear. So important here is when you enter the library, you can choose any of the images that are already included in the library, but if you don't find what you're looking for, you can upload any image in the library so you can use it in your game. So now we're going to add what we call the minigame. A minigame will help us, and there's a lot of them, it will help us add interaction to the game to make it a little bit more arcade, a little bit more less boring. So in this case, we're going to choose a minigame that we call keypad. So now we are going to imagine that we are basically finding a safe box behind the picture. We need to open the safe box, and we're going to need to introduce a code. This code, we need to think of it as a player. I need to think of it following the instructions of the clue, MCD. So in this case, we're going to call this minigame safe box. The description will make it like type the correct code or something. OK, perfect. So now, because MCD means 1400 in Roman numbers, we're going to use 1400 as the correct code. And we're not going to be adding no feedback at all. And we'll save this. So now we have that if someone clicks on the picture, we'll launch a comic. After the comic is finished, we'll launch the minigame in which the player needs to open the safe. And now, what do we want to happen when the save is open? We want to show a document. So now we choose this scroll PDF file. If we hit on the I button, we can see the document will be showing. So in this document, we are giving the player a key insight. I mean, you need to find the needs of your client before you sell to him. So now we're going to ask the player to use this lesson, to use this insight in the next exercises so he can practice, receive feedback, and show his performance. And now we're going to add a final dialogue just as an instruction. Basically, use this lesson tomorrow in your office. So we're going to now create a second level. We're going to add a new scene. So we'll create a level, hitting Add Level. And now we're going to choose a background for this scene. We choose from the library this office. And now we start adding elements. In this case, we need 2 characters. We're going to need Gina, and we're going to need the client. And now we have 2 characters in the scene. What will happen when we click on Sojan is that we are going to launch a new dialogue. In this case, this is going to be a role play. This is one of the ways we can test the player. We can make him practice, and we're going to give him feedback, which is absolutely crucial when using game-based learning. So once we hit on the plus button, we choose the dialogue, but we're going to use it in a different way. So let's create a dialogue. We're going to call it sale. And we're going to add a first sentence, and Surjan is going to be asking for an insurance policy. So he will say, okay, I'm looking for an insurance policy. Remember, this is just an example, quick example for you to see how the editor works. Now, we can, you see the 3 buttons here will allow us to add another line, another phrase, but we can add a decision. And this is really, really important because now we can see how the player behaves, how our students behaves. So we're going to add a decision. In this case, we will ask the player to choose what he wants to respond to the first sentence from the client. So we have first decision, I got the product for you. And this obviously is not the correct choice. So because we just told him in the first level, he needs to discover the needs of the client first, and he's not doing so. So now we'll say, as a feedback, we'll say wrong. And here you can say whatever you want. You can tell them you didn't look for the needs. You didn't ask the client. You're offering a product without knowing what the client needs. So this is up to you. So you choose what kind of feedback you want to say. In here, we're going to say wrong. You didn't look for the client needs. We're going to write a second decision. This second decision will be what kind of product are you thinking of? So in this case, we'll say wrong again, because the client doesn't know. You are supposed to tell the client what kind of product he needs. So we'll say wrong. You are supposed to ask, again, to look for your client's needs. So it doesn't really matter, but this is going to be kind of a wrong feedback. And then we're going to make a third decision. This is going to be the right one, which will be, okay, what would you like to ensure? So this would be probably an interesting first question to try and understand what the client is looking for. So what would you like to ensure? So the feedback in here, let's say, all right, or let's say kudos. I don't really care. The important thing here is you can write the feedback you need to write, regardless of the different decisions. And a very important thing here is that you can evaluate, you can give points, or you can subtract points from the player, and you can do so hitting the Add Points button. So for every single decision, you could choose to give or not to give points to your player. In this case, -10 because it's an incorrect answer. Let's also take 10 points from the second one, and we'll give, 50 points because they chose the correct answer. And let's add a third line, and this is Surjan saying he wants security for his home, for example. So I'd like to ensure my home. So now we built a dialogue that consists on 2 sentences and a decision in between. What will happen when the dialogue is done? So we're going to, again, try and see how we can evaluate the student. In this case, we can use a mini game for that. So we're going to make sure that now the player understands what product or what type of product he needs to offer the client, given the specific answer he received from him before. So in this case, we're going to add a mini game. It's called a clickable image. And we basically present an image with 3 different policies. And now the player needs to click on top of the correct policy and offer it to the client. We're going to use this image with 3 different policies. And now, because this is a mini game, it's a click on image mini game, we're going to establish the clickable areas. So we'll create the first one. We're going to call it the correct one. So this is going to be the area where the student needs to click to get a correct answer. So we just draw it around the correct policy. Now we configured a clickable area. That's the right one. We're going to create 2 extra ones, 2 additional ones. This will be incorrect 1 and incorrect 2. If the player clicks on these areas, he will receive the wrong message or the wrong feedback message, and we again can give or take out points. So incorrect 2, that would be the second area. You see how easy it is to configure this mini game. And now we just need to save the building block. Well, let's create 2 feedbacks messages. So for the correct answer, we'll say congrats. And for the error message would be wrong, for example. Just quick messages. Again, we can add points if they do it right. So let's give them 10 points. We could say -10, for example, if they go wrong. So now when the player clicks on Sujan, we'll go through the role play. We'll have to make a decision during the dialogue. Then we'll have to choose the right policy using the mini game. And let's do a last building block. And this one will be a video. So let's imagine that the player who's learning how to sell insurance policies, now we want him to see a short video about this certain policy so he can understand it better. So we'll just, again, choose the video building block. We'll call it policy video. And we're going to choose from the library or upload to the library from our computer, in this case, a sample video about the specific policy that we chose as correct. So our game is ready, and now let's see how it looks like hitting the preview button. Again, we'll render real time, so we have the game right away ready for us to play. Now, if we click on Gina, we'll be able to see the last clue that we had. In this case, the secret is behind the sky MCD. So let's go and find the secret. Obviously, we established a clickable area on top of the picture. If we click on the picture now, the comic will be launched. Remember, the comic had 2 vignettes, 2 panels, composed of 1 image and the sentence. In here, it has to be here. We can go to the next panel and we see the next image with there we go. If we close the comic now, the save mini game will appear. And now the player needs to find a way to open the save using the clue. And the clue was behind the sky, which is obviously behind the picture. Now, MCD should give us the answer. In this case, the answer is 1,400. This will allow us to open the safe. And what we established in the flow is that when the save mini game was solved, we will show the PDF with the scroll. And this is the scroll with the message. So now we know we need to find the needs of the client. We close that. We have the last dialogue in the level telling us to apply this knowledge tomorrow in our office. We'll be able to move to the next level. So let's enter the second level, new scene. This is the office scenario. Now we have two characters. We have the client and we have Gina. Now we can click on the client, on Surjan. This will launch this dialogue with a decision. So the first sentence was, I'm looking for an insurance. Now the player needs to choose the correct answer for that, or the correct question in this case. So we're gonna choose the correct one. What would you like to insure? This will give us 50 points because that's what we established in the building block, and we will receive the kudos message. Now we can move to the third sentence in the dialogue, which is, I want to insure my home. Remember that we established after the dialogue, we'll be playing the mini game of clicking on the image and choosing the right policy. So now, there we go. If we click on the incorrect policy, we will receive a wrong feedback message. If we hit on the right one, then we will receive the congrats message, and we can move on. And remember, after that, we want them to see this video explaining how this policy works, which is available for the student, only he needs to play through the play button. So this is a very, very simple game that we built in 10, 15 minutes for you to see how easy it is to use the editor and how easy it is to find ways to communicate or to teach different messages through a story. So you saw how easy it is to build a training video game with the editor, but the platform, the Gamelearn platform, is much more.
So how does our business model work? Well, our platform is subscription-based. So if you want to give access to, let's say, 1,000 of your employees, you'll have to buy 1,000 seats. This will give them access to the campus and therefore to all of Gamelearn's games and or the games you design yourself using the editor. If you want to use the editor, though, you will have to choose one of its plans. Those plans are different depending on the number of games or services or translations you want to be using. So in one side, you'll buy seats for your students. In the other hand, you'll choose a plan to use the editor. Today, as a special offer for all of the people attending the presentation, we have a special offer. All of you buying at least 1,000 seats will have the editor included for 1 year. To take advantage of this special offer, you need to place your orders before the 1st of December. Also, let me share with you this reference of pricing depending on the number of seats that you order. In the case of the special offer, if you are to order 1,000 seats, you'll be paying $45,000, which means basically $45 per person per year. And remember, to be able to benefit from this offer, you need to place your orders before the 1st of December.
If you have any doubts or if you're interested, just contact your account executive. If you don't have one, please write to the email you're seeing in the screen, info@gamelearn.com. We'll be pleased to answer any kind of question. And just to finish, we are having a workshop October 22nd. Today, you saw how easy it is to use the editor. We want to teach you how to use the editor to make your own games. And we'll be having this workshop of around 2.5 hours. Hopefully, it will be more than enough to get you started and building your own game. We wait for you there. It's going to be free for all the attendees at this event. And now, the surprise you've been waiting for. Our co-founder, Maya Price, is ready to dance for you. And we are using flamenco because within the sector, we are a passionate company. We love art, we do art, we love innovation, and all that together is what represents for us this amazing Spanish dance. So Thank you and welcome Maya Prize.
Que no te veo de venir. Corazón, ¿dónde me llevas? Que no te veo de venir. No me metas por ver donde no puedas salir. Me metas por donde, ay, que donde no puedas salir. Ole, la valiente. Acha. Ole. Anda. Ole, ole, la rubia. De montaña y mare, entre mare y montaña, voy a darle de beber ya la madre de mi alma. De montaña y mare, entre mare y montaña, voy a darle de comer ya la madre de mi alma. Me llamo usted bonita, me llamo usted bonita porque mi marido es celoso y por la noche me lo crío. Pasa. Ole, el piso. Que mira, atrás, atrás. you.